to another episode of Screen Critics, everybody. It is episode 53. 53. 53 weeks. That means, last week was a full year. Except technically it would have been a full year before that because I did take weeks off here and there. So I have been doing this more than a year already, but the 52nd week last week. 53 is a nice number to be at. Why? I don't even know what that means. No, it's a regular number to be at. But looking forward to the next 50, basically, is what I'm driving at here. Episode 100. I've been lining up my specials, I've been thinking about what the specials are going to be. They're every 25, nothing's changed there. I'm thinking 75, maybe I start doing specials on my favorite filmmakers and their works, Of course, I will get to a Harry Potter special at some point because it's another personal guilty pleasure fan favorite of mine, or personal favorite of mine. What does fan favorite mean? Is that a thing? Fan favorite? Am I just drawing a blank here on that? Whatever. That's when it comes to franchises. Again, using words I don't like. Franchise. Cinematic achievements. Nope, doesn't work. Cinematic mega narratives. My favorite cinematic mega narratives. That's a mouthful. Marvel, Star Wars, pretty tied. But yeah, Harry Potter's up there, It's in my top 3, probably. So is the Middle Earth. Oh yeah, we got some specials. There's a lot to work with in that regard. Happy belated May the 4th. May the 4th be with you. Revenge of the 5th is a thing people tried to start. I don't think it's catching on as much. But also Cinco de Mayo. Happy Cinco de Mayo. That's a real thing. Check out what... you can go back and check out episode 10 of the show where I talk deeply in the Star Wars special. Star Wars themed stuff this week. A lot of Star Wars stuff happened. I'll talk about... I won't do a recap or anything, but I thought I'd bring up a little bit of what I thought about the Bad Batch. I didn't realize... We're going to talk about... There's some release stuff that happened this week, too. But you can go check out my my Star Wars Legends book collection on my page at BMS Studios, too. I did a full showcase of them on there, and if you want to see how I would read them and stuff, I think maybe next May the 4th I'll do like a post about it, because I got a new case for them too. It's cool. It's a full collection there. I'm slowly adding more to that too. I only have a few that I want still. I have mostly the whole thing in physical copies. I got The Star Wars. I bought The Star Wars the other day in paperback. If you don't know what The Star Wars is, it's George Lucas's original idea for Star Wars. It was like his first draft for Star Wars, and I have the screenplay, but it was also adapted into a graphic novel, into a comic book, and by Dark Horse, and you can buy that and read that. It was different. It's like an alternate reality in Lucas's mind. It's like the initial Star Wars ideas. It's pretty crazy. You can also see the similarities too, obviously. Yeah, I just bought that, so I'll be adding that to the collection. So yeah, happy May the 4th and all that shit. Speaking of Star Wars. So yeah, we're going to talk about Sound of Metal today very briefly, and I don't want to say briefly like I'm not going to go deep into my thoughts about it, because that's the point here. That's our topic today. I'm saying briefly because I want to do a nice, quick, tight, clean episode, just like nice and smooth. Like it's going to be a 35-minute, 40-minute top episode. Nice, like I want to try to, I don't know why that matters to me so much, but I would like to try and do that. Because I think there's a flow when you have, like, when you're moving from one segment to the next nicely, at a nice pace. At least I feel that energy here doing it. So we'll talk about, I know I polled it this week. I pulled Chaos Walking and The Marksman to see what people thought I should talk about this week. Nobody clicked it, so Sound of Metal instead, because nobody. I'm not gonna do either then, because nobody cared about either. Clearly, who saw the poll, nobody had the 0.1 milliseconds it takes to click one. Apparently, so Sound of Metal, and I'm glad I'm in a dramatic kind of mindset here. Promising Young Woman was wild. This one was deep. And the Oscars had me kind of going through the catalog of those films a little bit. I already talked about Nomadland back at episode 45. So I did actually see the best picture of the year. I quote it because subjective, guys, art. Despite the winning gold statue, where it went to and everything. So we saw that, we talked about that, and it made me think I gotta go through and talk about some of these other ones, and I'm feeling. And when I watch these kind of films, that's when I really feel and relate, and they just resonate, because they're captivating, they're dramatic, they're works of art. These films, it's a reason they're in the Oscars. I'm never gonna deny that the Oscars know how to pick them when it comes to, like artistic quality, dramatic quality. So yeah, we'll talk about that, and before that, I'd like to say, I always, all week, I have ideas that pop into my fucking head about what I want to say, like how I want to open the episode, and things I want to bring up. And if I don't write it down, I forget in the moment. And now we're under the gun. I don't remember. So let's just move on to the thing, to the next thing here. And the next thing is, obviously, the news, which there was a lot of interesting stuff. First of all, The Bad Batch came out. It premiered on May the 4th, obviously, Star Wars Day. And The Bad Batch is another entry in the large mega narrative of Star Wars. And it was cool because it was a 70-minute, hour and 10-minute premiere. And it just kind of segued us from the Clone Wars into this little storyline, about this group of clones that don't that I knew I predicted early on that they would not be your typical clones, just turning on the Jedi and the Republic and just joining the Empire and just falling in line, because they're the odd ones out. They're the Bad Batch, which is a very weighted, very loaded title, because it also has these meanings. They're the Bad Batch because they were the runts of the litter, if you will, like experimented on, genetically enhanced in some way, modified, and because of them being these outsiders and these outcasts, different from the regular clones, they're also unique and they each have their own personalities. They have genuine personality. And ironically, they don't just turn on the Jedi and the Republic because of it, because they're so different and unique that the programming does not register for them like it does with the other clones. So very right off the bat, interesting there, because obviously you can relate. Very, very important themes of morality right off the bat, and I'm looking forward to seeing where they go. I didn't know that they were going to drop episode 2 right away. I didn't realize, because they're doing it every Friday now. It was just, the premiere was on Tuesday for Star Wars Day, but it's every Friday now, and I didn't realize they were going to drop episode 2 right now. It's ready to go. I'm going to watch it tonight before I go to bed, obviously. I did not know that. I thought we had to wait till next Friday. But awesome. And I think the Bad Batch is why there were shifts. So we'll start with that this week. Let's get to the news. There were news of the week. You know, I got to give myself the right pauses for the titles to come up, and don't go into stuff too quick. Don't speak too quick, because you might need a photo to come up or a video to come up. Your presentation, okay? Performative, right? No, not at all. Maybe a little, whatever. I'm just yelling words out now. That's what this podcast is. I just talk and say words that come into my head that have nothing to do with what we're doing here. This is my nightmare. All right, relax. Okay. Relax. Let's do this. Turkish. News. We'll start with the shifts. Big thing, obviously, Loki was supposed to come out Friday, June 11th. They moved it up to Wednesday, June 9th, and now it's coming out every single Wednesday instead of every single Friday. Did not know if they were doing that, but I think it has been confirmed. I thought they were just moving up the premiere a couple days for the fans, maybe, and then going back to every Friday. But no, it's every Wednesday, and I think it's possible the Bad Batch has come into that decision. They don't want to drop the Bad Batch and Loki on the same day. Don't know why. I don't know if that comes. I'm predicting there's a possibility that is why, or one of the reasons why they shifted it. Because there's a chance the Bad Batch is a hit. I mean, it's already a hit. It's very good. It's actually very good. I gave the first step, like, if I'm putting numerical value on it, I gave it a 9 out of 10. It's very, very deep, man. It's very deep. You know, you wouldn't think it with these animated Star Wars shows, but they're very, very good. And this one even supersedes Rebels, which was the second animated Star Wars series after Clone Wars. This is very much in the same realm as Clone Wars. You know, focusing on clone protagonists is a new thing. And it's probably why we get to play with a lot of human themes, because the clones have always been characters where the theme of humanity really comes into play, because, do they react? Do they think? Do they have kind of emotional responses and values and perspectives like regular people? That has always been a question when it comes to the clones, and I think having them as central characters is an important thing. It's a good show. It is a hit. So having 2 hits released on the same day, maybe, because Loki's gonna be a fucking hit. That series is gonna slap. You know that. So, yeah. What else? Let's keep running it. Pull up to the light, pull up to the, what's J. Cole? Pull up at the light, nice watch. Run it. Hands in the air. Run it. What else happened J. Cole's new album comes out next week, too. Heat coming. As if it wasn't hot enough here in LA. We got heat. Warm up the other states. What the fuck does that mean, dude? Alright. We're just podcast mode. We're flowing. fucking tax season, too. Don't worry, we got that done, didn't we? Tenet star John David Washington is joining Star Wars director Gareth Edwards' next sci-fi thriller drama film called True Love. And it takes place in the near future, and that is all the story details we have thus far. As in, we have basically no story details. But I'm intrigued, obviously. Gareth Edwards did Rogue One, a Star Wars story, which is one of the best Star Wars stories in the mega narrative. And I'm very excited to see John David Washington continue to expand his filmography, because he is quite a talent. And I think his father, Denzel, would be proud to hear that from fans. Or from anyone, I guess. Or he doesn't care what other people. He's proud of his son. Let's put it that way, I'm sure. I'm intrigued for this. There's a rumor going around that Monica Rambeau, one of our latest new heroes in the MCU, Monica Rambeau from WandaVision, may appear in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Now, if she does, let's be clear about it. Probably a post-credit scene. Why? Because Doctor Strange comes out before the Marvels. Yes, the Marvels. That was another big thing this week. The Captain Marvel sequel is after Doctor Strange, too, so we know that Monica's supposed to tie to, the WandaVision post-credit, and, Monica's next chapter is definitely in the Marvels, Captain Marvel, too, and hence the title. It's plural, The Marvels. We have 3 thus far. There may even be a 4th in the film. And that's becoming an ensemble storyline, It's crazy how they could shift like that. It's not about... when you change the title like that, it's not central to Carol anymore. It's central to multiple people. Or not. They could think about what Captain America Civil War was, and how it was both an Avengers film but that was different. Captain America was in the title. It was still a Captain America movie. Captain America Civil War. This is a little different. We haven't had this. This is definitely very different, actually, when you think about it. Why don't we just move on to that real quick? We talked about Monica Rambeau potentially being in Doctor Strange 2. It's probably going to be a post-credit scene, because she's got to be in Captain Marvel 2. Like a full role. Her next full role is Captain Marvel 2, which is titled The Marvels. Big announcement was on Monday. I posted about it. But they gave us a first look at the Eternals. So here's some photos of the Eternals, which looks like a very bold, as I've said, film. Probably one of their riskiest films, but also one of their most obscure, different, creative, unique films, with Academy Award-winning director Chloe Zhao behind it, the vision behind it. And I think this cast alone makes me just too hyped. And the fact that it kind of has been hyped to be this story about humanity and the history of humanity, and I guess the role that the Eternals play in that history, and the history of enhancer or super-powered people, because they have abilities, and there's a chance that genetically they are responsible for a certain form of evolution. Maybe it's a hint to the mutants coming into the MCU, the mutant X gene, and it becoming the next step of superheroes in the MCU is an evolutionary one. Having it be genetic, having it be you're born with this gift. We haven't had that yet at all in the MCU. The mutants bring in a whole other side of things, and there's a chance that Eternals hints at where Marvel plans on going with that, because the Eternals are definitely beings that come on, they are born this way. It appears they They have been around for centuries. They're older than gods, like Thor's cornerstone with gods that we've met. Older than them, they've been around. They've sat out too. This is a question. They are not. They haven't been getting involved in things, in events. Why now? These are things that we. It's very. I mean, just the cast though. Angelina Jolie, Salma Hayek, and then the Game of Thrones, just population. I mean, shit, what's his name? McFadden, right? Robert? No, he played Robert. He played Robb Stark. Damn it, dude! Come on. I know it's. I think it's McFadden is the last name. Fuck. This is the worst part when I don't know things I should know. Anyway, the guy who played Robb Stark is in it, okay? And then the guy who plays Jon Snow, Kit Harington, is in it, but he wasn't in the first look photos. No hints to him, by the way. That's kind of. I'm still like, whoa, where's Kit at? Whatever. They also gave us titles for the Black Panther sequel and Captain Marvel sequel. Like I said, the Marvels is Captain Marvel 2. And now it's got Carol, it's got Kamala Khan is Miss Marvel, who gets her own Disney Plus series first before that. And then, of course, Monica Rambeau. Those are the Marvels that we currently know of. And then Black Panther Wakanda Forever is the sequel, and it's going to focus more on Wakanda and the people of Wakanda. And I'm sure the mantle of the Black Panther and what it means to Wakanda even more deeply diving into that. And there's going to be a Wakanda series on Disney Plus, so all these things tying together. I'm sure it's been quite a challenge for Ryan Coogler trying to do his job after the tragedy of losing Chadwick Boseman, because it's got to be tough to honor the legacy and grow and kind of grow from it at the same time. I can't imagine. That's what we do. I'm saying that's what we do because I'd like to think I'm a filmmaker too, okay? Even though I'm this guy over here at the start of it all and still not a professional yet, but this is what we do. These are the challenges sometimes that come up. Go to work, baby. Go to work. That's got to be brutal, man. But they gave us release dates, too, for a bunch of stuff. I mean, Guardians of the Galaxy 3 finally has an official release date, and Captain Marvel 2 and Black Panther 2 have an official release. It's nice to see that we have more movement there. But then again, we get movement every week. It seems like every week there's something we're learning new. And, that was something. That was something wild right there. Wrath of Man will be next week's episode, and I'm going to see it in a theater, and it's got some pretty good reviews so far. Guy Ritchie's latest, starring Jason Statham. It's apparently a very impressive crime thriller. I will be seeing that next week and talking about it next week, so I just thought I'd bring that up. Ant-Man and the Wasp star Hannah John Kamen to play Marvel hero Red Sonja, disconnected from the MCU. This is the same actor who plays Ghost in the MCU. So how could she play two characters? Well, it's because Red Sonja does not exist in the MCU. I don't know really what it is, but it was in the news. And I don't know why we still even have things in Marvel that are not in Marvel. It's so annoying. Marvel needs their toys back so they can create their stories that belong there. You know, these characters belong home no matter what. I don't know, though, with Red. This character seems like it's an adjacent to kind of. Was kind of a Marvel character, but less of a. I don't know. You know, I don't think it was as big of a character in Marvel Comics as obviously Spider Man is. You know, Sony. Seriously. Sony. Seriously. And then Andrew Garfield was playing with fans a little bit. He's kind of not being clear about what's going on there. Of course, it's all just playing. They're just playing and hyping and stuff. You know, there's a chance he's in it. There's also a chance he's not in the next Spider-Man film, No Way Home. He's saying, no, I'm not in it, and then he's saying, never say never. Like, literally in the same couple days, he says two different things. So, what does it mean? What does it mean? We will wait and see. When we see the film, we will see what the results are. Kevin Feige confirmed Doctor Strange was originally planned to appear in WandaVision, but they cut it at the last second, kind of thing. Like, nah. Why? He could have popped it. I guess for the same reason he didn't have Spider-Man in the Falcon and Winter Soldier. You know, trying to keep central focus on the characters that you need to keep the focus on, and not kind of shadowing them in any way or distracting from the story in any way. You know, you got to do those things gracefully. When other characters pop in, it's got to be done gracefully. It's got to work. It's got to make sense, right? If anything, Doctor Strange popping in makes the most sense. More sense than Spider-Man popping in to Falcon and Winter Soldier. That one could have worked, but I guess they just didn't want to do it. And also, Marvel even kept the Falcon and the Winter Soldier writers in the dark on certain things because they didn't know what the deal was with Steve Rogers either. They still don't know. So it kind of hints at maybe something going on with Steve Rogers. Because if you can't even tell Spellman and his crew what the deal is with Steve Rogers, what are you planning? What are you up to? Again, though, that's all just speculation. Don't plan on seeing characters come back that really don't need to come back. Their arcs have been completed. You know. And then there were some set photos that were snuck in by photographers, you know, that we got to see Miss Marvel in full costume. That series is coming either this year or at the very, very beginning of next year. Not confirmed yet. But Miss Marvel is introducing us to Kamala Khan. And she's a very important character in the comics. Very, very powerful. Very, I think she's a member of the Young Avengers at one point or another. And that just keeps expanding. The Young Avengers just keep popping in all over the place. So that's gonna happen soon enough. And we got to see her in costume, which is cool. But also Echo. You know, Echo is making her MCU debut in Hawkeye. And then she's getting her own series on. So she's getting her own series as well. So we should definitely be excited for what's coming. It's a lot of stuff coming. It's crazy. And yeah, I mean that's the news really for the most part. But the big thing I wanted to bring up, which I posted about, was we did get our first look. So this week, HBO dropped their first look images for the Game of Thrones prequel, House of the Dragon, and here they are, and they're very interesting because it's cool to see Matt Smith in costume too, because he definitely fits the bill for playing a Targaryen, you know what I mean? And Olivia Cook, who's in the film we're going to talk about tonight too, she's a talent, huh? I remember I watched her when she was in Bates Motel. That's where I first saw her. That's a good show. That's a nice show too. It's the nice, quick, 5 seasons, good show if you haven't seen it. And yeah, so this is cool to see. The cast to see, and it looks like, yes, you can kind of, even from the images, kind of feel the time difference a little bit. It is hundreds of years before, and just there's a hint of that a little bit. I'm curious how this will turn out, the quality of it. How do you live up to Game of Thrones? How do you derail or distract from the final season that's very, very controversial and divisive? How do you transcend from the first series entirely to being something else, something unique and really fun? And that's what we'll find out as we go forward. So it was cool to see some photos. I think that premieres next year, so it's not that far off, people. That is the news of this week, and we will move on to our film. So the Sound of, and it's not The Sound of Metal, it's Sound of Metal is the film that we are talking about this week. And I left off the Met. It's very very deep, like I said. Last week was a wild ride kind of film with all the different emotions. I felt everything last week. This week, I felt very just, it was deep. So, like, I'm feeling, I feel, this is fucking insane, dude. You're gonna blank and not talk. How did you feel watching the movie? I don't know, dude. There's just a lot of emotions too with this one, but really what it was like trying to relate. Trying to relate is not something you're even meant to do. It's almost like you're supposed to observe and reflect, kind of. Because you can't understand what it's like to be deaf unless you're deaf. And I think this film is very relevant in that regard, because it's like a really brilliant idea, a brilliant way to highlight deafness, especially with characters that I'm sure, I didn't do any research. I just watched the film, but I would think that there's most of the actors that inhabit that whole chunk of the film, that middle and end sequence, kind of are end, beginning of the third act, kind of. Yeah, so that's where we leave them, right? Yeah. So that whole middle chunk of the film where he's there and he's learning how to be deaf and trying to cope and trying to move on and kind of find his way in being deaf. I think a lot of those actors were probably deaf, actual deaf people, deaf actors, to add a obvious and needed, genuine authenticity. But I think the themes are really what caught me here with this film. Just the things it touches on, and the little subtleties. There's a lot of little things that if you don't really pay attention, you're not going to catch, that really just bring it to life even more. That really make all the little beats hit harder, and in turn make you feel even more for the characters and what they're going and what he's. It's really that's another. It's a very very first person in that regard. It's very very much from Ruben's perspective the entire time. I think, yeah, we don't leave him at all. We open on him behind that drum kit and playing, and we end on him. The opening and closing image are almost directly parallel to each other in that regard, because there's this idea of of hearing and then listening. And I think that was the big thing that really touched on my, it made me think, and touched my heart too. Because here you have not just two struggles to overcome. I mean, not just one struggle to overcome, but two struggles to overcome, because he's not just someone who's now all of a sudden lost his hearing. He's also a recovering drug addict, which immediately is something he was already struggling with in his past and probably present in at times. But then something like this happens, and now he has to try and not revert, not regress in that regard, and also find a way to cope with this struggle and change and make it his new normal. And it's just, and this is the thing, I didn't realize what the film was really going to be about, because you see the poster, maybe you didn't see the trailer, I didn't see the trailer or anything like that. You see the poster and you see what the title is, and you think this is a story about a drummer who's going to be doing a lot of drumming, and there's going to be a lot of music playing, and maybe it's a movie about him overcoming his deafness to then continue on and keep doing the drumming, which is something we've seen in movies plenty of times. But no, this is way more powerful, because it goes the other way. It's not about fixing his deafness, because it's about realizing that it's not something to fix. It's not a disability, but just something to. It's just now it's just a part of him. It's just a part of who you are now, and that's okay. It's not something to fix or get rid of. That was really powerful stuff, to take that approach. And yeah, the movie is about deafness, and it's about living with that happening to you suddenly, because it doesn't happen to everybody suddenly at random points. I'll tell you right now, I keep fucking talking into the mic like this close. We're getting real close without making a joke that's insensitive. Sometimes, I don't know if that's worse for you guys, right? Especially people who would listen. This sounds great, but it hurts my ears. That's a good distance. I think some of the most powerful scenes are when we realize that we're supposed to realize that Ruben's whole addictive personality is it's a shifting thing. He's shifted around to having that thing that he can cling to, that makes him feel normal. So, like, there's this idea that he needed drugs in the past, and then he needed Lulu, to kind of replace that, which is definitely a better thing, because it saved him, which is what we learned too in a lot of ways, that she saved his life in that regard. Right off the bat, there it is again. Because it's not right off the bat. It's not. It's at a total different point in the movie. Right off the bat would be the opening scene, Benji. Right off the bat is the opening scene. This is not the opening scene I'm talking about. There's a scene later where he's asked, how long have you been clean? And he says 4 years. And then he's asked, how long have you two been together? And he says 4 years. It's the immediate hint of... It's in a way of expressing that she saved his life. So, this idea that he needs some kind of anchor, that's the word I was looking for. And drugs was his anchor, right? And then she was his anchor. And the music and their album and their life together was his anchor. And when he's told that he's kind of, inhibiting those same qualities of an addict by by trying to reobtain this thing that he no longer has, instead of moving on and adjusting to his new normal. It's like him being an addict again, and he has to realize it in his own way that it is very similar, and he has to move on from it. And it is a love story underneath. You know, the subtext of this is very much he does love her. She loves him too. There were times in the film where I couldn't help but feeling like she abandoned him, but that still it didn't outweigh, you know, the fact that I think she really did love him too, because she, you know, it's true that he saved her in a lot of ways too. But I think one of the biggest realizations in the film is that we learn that actually she came into his life to save him, but he came into her life to help her run away from what she needs to confront, kind of. And what they had together may have been perfect for him, and I'm not even convinced it was, but it was actually destructive to her. And again, the subtleties. The thing that makes me think this is this idea of her scratching herself or cutting herself that is brought up, and it would appear that she did it more when they were together and on the road. And later in the film, he visits her, and one of the first things he says to her is, "Hey, no scratching, no, you know, that's good." And the second he mentions we got to get back out on the road and do what we were doing, she starts scratching herself again. It's a great little visual cue that implies that it's a destructive thing that they were doing. It wasn't necessarily good for either of them. This unexpected traumatic thing that he has to now go through, this thing that happened to him, was actually something that almost needed to happen for both of them, because it's about moving on. It's about this next chapter. It's about growing. There's a new frontier in front of both of them that's different from what was before. And in that moment, when he keeps saying to her, "It's okay, it's okay," and this is at the end of the film, by the way, he keeps saying, "It's okay," and what he's realizing in that moment is that you saved my life, now I'm going to save yours, and I'm going to let you, I'm going to let you go. I'm going to let you live your life and figure out your life, and I'm going to figure out mine. And that was beautiful. It was really beautiful. I came close to tears at that moment and at the moment before when he's talking to his mentor at the deaf community, because it was tough for him to kick Ruben out, but it was sad to watch that whole interaction, because you do realize Ruben is struggling to move on and lost and just unsure of what he should really be doing. He's so convinced that he just needs to get back what he had instead of looking forward to something else, which we all can relate to that. We all have done that. If anything else, if nothing else, we all have tried to hang on to something because it felt right, even if it wasn't necessarily the right thing for us. It felt like it was, so we cling to it instead of looking forward to something better, because there's something new. It doesn't even have to be better, but it's about moving forward. You know, this idea of future, there's this idea of moving on and looking to the future is brought up throughout the film. And then I also just... performances were fucking great. I mean, Riz Ahmed is... I mean, if you haven't seen The Night Of on HBO, that really took my perspective on his chops and his acting chops, on his talent, even to the next level. I thought that was fantastic. But that maybe highlighted more to John Turturro than it did Riz Ahmed. But I've seen Riz Ahmed in so many things growing up, and these are the kind of little stories that are so impactful for us as an audience, but for the actors to take these kind of roles. These are the roles they live for, because they're so human, so grounded, so real, so relatable, resonant. I thought it was great in that regard. Olivia Cooke's good. the community characters were great. Really spending the time with the people in that community was the highlight of this, because it's so quiet. This is the last thing, I guess, to wrap this up. I want to talk about how they play with the idea of sound, because we are, the opening and the closing, the parallel that I was talking about is that we open on such noise and we close on silence. So there's that. But that's the whole film is it's like letting go of sound and adjusting to silence. Stillness is a word used too. It's like noise is chaos, and silence is peace, or calming, calmness, stillness. And it's as if Ruben has never had that stillness. He's just chasing the next sound, the next noise, the next chaos, the next distraction, if you will, to kind of keep him from to kind of keep him feeling like he has some purpose. It's as if he can't stay still too long, or he won't know how to cope with the thoughts and the emotions that he'll be stuck thinking about. He has to always be moving on to that thing he's so sure he needs to do. And in this case, the whole time, even when he does start to cope with it and does learn and does grow, he still reverts, because he's so sure that there's nothing else but that life he had with Lulu, and life on the road, and being a drummer, and playing music. But we have these moments throughout the film where sometimes it's loud, sometimes, and then it will cut straight to silence. And I thought the way that they played with that was really brilliant, but also the way that they would play with perspective. It was always perspective through sound, not visuals, if you think about it like that. Because visually we spend the whole film with Ruben, but audio, what's the word? Fuck. In terms of sound, we shift perspectives. We'll have moments where we dip into Ruben's perspective and what it's like for him to hear, and then we cut to normal sounds, and those are the moments when we're in other people's perspectives, especially Lulu. But what was most beautiful, also what was ironic, was when he finally gets this surgery he's so convinced he needs. That's when everything actually sounds like metal. They really made it like then everything he hears is like this grinding, screeching, robotic, metal sounding frequency that he hears everything in. Everything comes to him in that way. Once he has this operation. But to wrap this up, what I'll say is, Ruben is so convinced that he needs to hear again. But what he really needs to do is listen. And they're two different things. The sound of metal is not here. It's in here. And it's in here. And he has to realize this for himself. And I think that whole final sequence is so beautiful, because that moment when he takes them off and just lets silence drain in, that's his moment of stillness. That's the moment when he stops trying to hear and just takes a moment to listen to what life is trying to tell him. It really was a good movie. It's beautiful in all its own little ways, man. Love movies like that really make you think and feel, most of all, obviously. I was feeling this. So I will give it let's give it an 8.5 out of 10. It was really good. That's my rating of it. You know, it was really good. Let's do our fact this week. Behind the scenes on a film that's very much in the same theme. You knew I was gonna do it because going based off the poster, I picked this, not what this movie ended up being about. Sound of Metal is way less about. It's not even about music. It's not. There are moments that are really nice where music comes into it in a nice way, you know. But yeah, less about that. But Whiplash, drumming, you knew I'd talk about it. In the 2014 masterpiece Whiplash, dedication to something is a central theme that extended to the kind of dedication the actors put into their roles. There's no denying it. Miles Teller performed most of the drumming himself. J.K. Simmons was even shocked on set to learn that Teller had the ability to play the way he did. Despite drumming since he was 15, Teller put in an additional preparation for the role by practicing 4 hours a day, 3 times a week. The only time he wasn't playing was for most of the close-ups, which instead was done by a double. On top of this, both lead actors, Teller and Simmons, suffered brutal injuries during production. Talk about dedication. In one scene, Teller tackles Simmons to the ground, and the result was 2 broken ribs for J.K. Meanwhile, the blood we see on Teller's hands during intensive drumming sequences, well, that was later revealed to be his own. Sometimes. And finally, the iconic slapping scene where Simmons smacks Teller in the face was initially done with specific angles and sound effects, but all of the dedicated artists involved opted for actual genuine slapping. Hence the redness on Teller's cheeks, which is very, very real. What an astonishing production all around.
Alternus, you want to clean the blood off my drum set?
Question of the week this week. Last week I asked, what is the best thriller of the last decade? And I thought there was some good conversation about it. I totally blanked on Taylor Sheridan films. You know, I didn't know Without Remorse was written by Taylor Sheridan. I'm going to talk about that going forward too. Didn't know he wrote that, but that's another Amazon Prime. You can watch Sound of Metal now on Amazon Prime if you have Prime. But there were a lot of good ones. I still stand by Shutter Island for me because I'm a big Scorsese fan. You know, Scorsese will be our 100th episode special, I'm sure. 75 maybe we'll do Tarantino. But this week I had an interesting one. I thought I'd go a little more Oscar themed because we did have the Oscars and I didn't really do anything in regards to that thematically. So how about this? Who is the best first-time director nominated for an Oscar? And that's a tough one, right? But here's the list you can potentially choose from, and I'm just going to give you my list, my top 7. So Sam Mendes for American Beauty, Orson Welles for Citizen Kane, Emerald Fennell recently for Promising Young Woman, the first ever woman first-time director nominated for an Oscar. Jordan Peele for Get Out, Kevin Costner for Dances with Wolves, Sidney Lumet for 12 Angry Men, and Robert Redford for Ordinary People would be my top ones. And I'm picking Sam Mendes as my favorite, or who I think was the best, just because I loved American Beauty. Despite its lead actor, it's just a brilliant fucking film. So I'm picking Sam Mendes as the best of that bunch. Even though Emerald Fennell with Promising Young Woman definitely shot up the list. How did we end up still doing an hour? Because I can't not talk over the talk. I don't know where that cut, but the fucking thing just had to do what it does, right? This fucking computer. Jesus Christ. Thank you, computer, for the more editing I have to now do this week. Thank you so much, you fucking piece of shit. Okay. Quote, and then we'll get out of here. Brings my whole fucking mood down. Name this movie. And I didn't have time to practice it, so it is what it is. I'm reading off of it. You know what they're saying about me? Said I lost something. Said I've gone middle of the road. They might as well say the same thing about you. You were the soul of this band. Now every time you're around, you're just drunk. The drunk soul of a blind junkie. What a lovely couple. Name that movie. And that is it. As usual, shout out to my patrons for keeping the lights on. Not literally, but you will be the reason for merch drops going forward. You will be the reason for potentially new tech that goes into the production of this thing. So thank you. And you know who you are. Billy Thomas, Jessica Murphy, Michael Morganti, Tijan Construction, Doolin Morganti, and Linda Morganti. Fam. Thank you as always. And that is it. Follow me personally at DeBenji. Follow the show at Screen Preach. Obviously. I have fun on the Instagram, so go check it out. And you can get involved more in the conversation too on Instagram. You can comment. I like the commenting on YouTube, but yeah, both is good. You know, go check out the Instagrams. Check out my website, benmorgantistory.com. Haven't changed it yet. Might still, not yet. The name of it, but that is it, and that's where my actual work is. You can subscribe to BMS Studios on YouTube and be ready to go for every week's episode and for other content I drop. And obviously, to become one of the Screen Preachers and support this thing, patreon.com/preacher. Thanks for watching and listening as always. Come back next week where I said we will be talking about Wrath of Man. Have a good week, everybody.